Dave Sharma, Liberal Senator, who was also Australia's ambassador to Israel, joins me from Parliament House. G'day, Dave.
Good afternoon, Clinton. Good to join you.
Do you worry about where we're heading here in terms of the sectarianism?
Look, I do worry if we see emerge political parties who are there to only represent one faith or one ethnicity or one group and only have that part of the community's interests at heart, which they'll pursue at the expense of broader Australian interests. One of the great features in my mind of the Australian political system is the two-party system where both parties seek to represent the broad cross swathes of Australia, from, the regions to the cities, different states and territories, different industries, blue collar, white collar, male, female. And as a result, you have to make compromises, of course, to do that. But I think you ultimately govern in the national interest. I'd be worried to see the emergence of political parties which would splinter our political system and have, Muslims set against Catholics, set against Jews, set against Hindus. I mean, I think that's a recipe for social division and, incidentally, bad government as well.
But, and in the end, if a representative of a party that is based around a religion, if they are elected to a seat, surely they then have a mandate from their constituents to actually fight for issues that are based on religion, which is not great in my opinion.
No, I think that's right, if they're running as such. I mean, look, all elected members of Parliament represent their communities. I used to represent Wentworth, which has a big Jewish community. I'm not Jewish myself, but I represent the Jewish community's interest because that was part of my community. But that's how representative politics is meant to work. It didn't mean that the non-Jewish part of Wentworth I didn't pay any attention to. Of course not. I represented them, the Russian community, the South African community, every other part of the community. And now as a senator for New South Wales, I seek to do the same. But if you're only running under one banner as a single issue or a single identity, I think all you're going to focus on in Parliament is the grievances, if you like, and, getting more of the pie for yourself. More money, more taxpayer dollars, better tax concessions, more infrastructure. And you get to a sort of state of zero sum where basically if anyone else gets something, it's something you're missing out on and vice versa.
The Prime Minister clearly is now becoming concerned about this because it could affect Labor-held seats. Do you think he has a right to be concerned?
I think he does, but I think he's brought a lot of this on himself. I mean, I think Labor throughout this conflict has tried to be all things to all people. And I think people have seen through it and seen weakness in it. I don't think they've tried their utmost to sort of bend over backwards to accommodate all sides. And I think on these issues, we need to clearly recognise that there's a difference between a terrorist group like Hamas and a democratic liberal state like Israel. There's a difference between a party that's attacked in the way Israel was attacked on the 7th of October and a party that's defending itself in response to that attack. But this government, in its desire not to offend certain communities, has been hesitant to call this out. And I think they're reaping what they've sowed there because people have seen weakness and people have taken them on, including their own Senate team.
And do you think they've taken that political tactic because there are more Muslim people in, say, Sydney southwest than there are Jewish people in seats that they currently hold?
Well, look, I think that's certainly part of it, but I also think that their Labor is sort of always paranoid about the threat to them from the Greens, from the left of politics and inner city seats, which they also hold and which are also under threat from the Greens. And so you often see that the Greens take a political position and Labor is there a few weeks later. I mean, when the funding to UNRWA, a UN body which supports Palestinian civilians in Gaza, was cut because of their links to the 7th of October terrorist attacks, funding was suspended. The Greens called for it to be restored. Lo and behold, the Labor government restored it just a few weeks later. And I think you see the Greens actually driving a lot of Labor policy in this area.
With what transpired at Parliament House today, where you're coming to us from, are you concerned with the level of security in that building?
I was very concerned to see the protesters get as far as they got. And obviously, they weren't seeking to harm individuals, but they breached a number of security measures and barriers, which means that if they did intend to harm individuals, would we have been able to stop them? We've seen tensions inflamed, if you like, in the community around this issue, which I understand people can feel strongly about this, but I don't think we should be allowing it to escalate to the point of, trespass, property damage, threats to life, and everything else. And this is just another example where I think things have gotten out of hand, and I think our security measures have failed and clearly need to be examined.
I'm staggered by it, David, because I mentioned earlier in my program that I took my kids to Canberra last year and they wanted to roll down the grass.
Yeah, you can't do it, can you?
I said to them, I don't think you can do it anymore.
I think I've tried to, do hill sprints up that, and I've been stopped quite quickly by security guards. The members of Parliament.
And you're a member.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Thank you for your time, David. Challenging times, mate.
Thanks so much for having me.
Dave Sharma, Liberal Senator, formerly the member for Wentworth, and Wentworth obviously has a large Jewish population. He is not Jewish, but he was the ambassador, Australia's ambassador to Israel. I just think we've got to remember that we are so far away from this conflict. Whatever happens in our country is not going to make any difference towards finding a resolution to what happens in the Middle East. We are, I think, blessed to live in a country where people of different faiths, belonging to different religions, peacefully live side by side, and they have done for decades and decades. And if it gets to the point where people are elected to Parliament based on religion,